The legal walls built to stop Trump, they aren't just cracking, patriots, they are imploding. The Georgia Court of Appeals just canceled oral arguments in the Fani Willis RICO case. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is desperately postponing Trump's sentencing until 2029. And even the most hostile judges are backing down. Remember all these walls closing in headlines? Well, the only walls closing in are the ones around these corrupt prosecutors' careers. We've got exclusive footage of the moment these cases started crumbling, and wait until you see what document just surfaced, and that could end these witch hunts once and for all. Patriots, while Trump is winning these legal battles, let me tell you about another winner, Chuck Norris. Just like Trump's defeating these corrupt cases, Chuck's defeating Father Time itself. At 83, he's still kicking butt, and he's revealed the secret behind his unstoppable energy. Like these crumbling court cases, Chuck's proving the experts wrong about aging. He's made a shocking video explaining how one simple change keeps him feeling younger, decades younger. So don't miss his game-changing revelation at chuckdefense.com/next. If it works for Chuck Norris, imagine what it could do for you. We thank our sponsors for making this show possible. Okay, so this was the big news. Georgia court cancels arguments in Trump's appeal to disqualify Fani Willis. Now, let's take a look at this post. This was just made. I've never seen this post of Fani Willis. This goes back to March, however. And this is Phil Holloway. Who's Phil Holloway? Dad, crime studier, police analyst. He works townhall.com. Okay, so he's on our side. Let's see. To recap, Fani Willis says her reputation's intact. She's not embarrassed. She's not done anything illegal. She's a role model for women, and she's the face of the feminist movement. Let's listen. I've never actually heard her speak in this capacity, so let's listen.
Like my reputation needs to be reclaimed. Let's say it for the record. I'm not embarrassed by anything I've done. I guess my greatest crime is I had a relationship with a man, but that's not something that I find embarrassing in any way. And I know that.
Wait. My greatest crime was having a relationship with a man, but I'm not embarrassed? What the hell does that even mean? My greatest crime was having a relationship with a man, but I'm not embarrassed by that. What? That's the mindset of these people.
In any way, and I know that I have not done anything that's illegal. And so I don't feel like my reputation needs to be reclaimed. And when I tell you the outpouring of women, and I'll tell you this, especially African-American women who will just say, we are so proud, you are such a good representative of us. But I would be lying to say it's only African-American women. I have had Caucasian women, Asian women, Indian women. I told Jeff one day, I didn't think I was the face of the feminist movement, but somehow I became it. And I think that women feel like women are treated differently when they're professionals, and they're proud to see someone that is strong and trying to do the right job. Certainly flawed, like every human being is flawed. My father has a saying, only one perfect man walked the face of the earth and they crucified him. I am not a perfect human being, but what I am is a hardworking human being and a human being that loves the community I serve and who understands this seat does not belong to me. It belongs to the people, and as long as I'm here, I'm going to try to do the job in a way that's honorable.
Yeah, well, you're basically dishonoring your entire party and your office. Here is Jim Jordan.
The Fani Willis stopping this political targeting, political cases. We all know the Fani Willis case, the Alvin Bragg case, and the Jack Smith cases were all driven by politics. The American people understood it. That's why they had this overwhelming win. One of the reasons this overwhelming win for President Trump. So I'm against the retribution. I'm against the Justice Department saying if you're a mom and dad showing up at a school board meeting, we're going to investigate you. I'm against the FBI putting together a memorandum at the Richmond field office which said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
So I just want
we want all that to stop.
I just want to put a button on this. So what you are saying is that
stopping this political targeting, political.
Well, now that Donald Trump is president, it's all coming to a halt. The Georgia Court of Appeals has abruptly canceled oral arguments in the Fani Willis RICO case against Trump, which suggests they may dismiss the case entirely. Court of Appeals of the state of Georgia, here is the official document that was filed on November 18th. The Court of Appeals hereby passes the following order, and it has all these points. Donald John Trump versus the state. Oral arguments scheduled to take place December 5th at 10:30 are hereby canceled until further order of the court. Michael Roman, David Schaefer, Robert David Cheeley, Mark Randall Meadows, Donald John Trump, Kathleen Latham, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, Jeffrey Bossert Clark, Harrison Floyd. All of these cases gone. But what happens to all the people who already, they pled something, they did a plea deal, plea agreement? What happens to those cases? Do those get thrown out? Or do they stick? That's the question. Maybe you guys watching, you can answer this in the comment section. I mean, wasn't Sidney Powell? Didn't she have something going on? She was part of this whole thing, and she basically pled guilty to being a part of this, and then, she pled out, and there's Jenna Ellis, I think she was also a part of this. She pled guilty, if I recall. So what happens to all those cases? I mean, what happened to the pastor? I don't see the pastor's name in here. What happened to the pastor we interviewed here? He was a co-defendant in the case. I don't see his name. Interesting. Well, I'm going to have to follow up with that. Okay, so let's continue taking a look at all of the headlines related to this. Georgia Court of Appeals has canceled a scheduled oral argument over prosecutor Fani Willis's continued participation. Bye-bye. Corrupt judge overseeing the hush money hoax against Trump also suspended their sentencing date. Even crooked Mershon knows they can't jail Trump at all. Bragg's office now has to file a brief explaining to the court why the case should proceed. So the hush money case, bye-bye. All that out the window. Jonathan Turley posting 12 hours ago, Bloomberg's reporting the court has again postponed any decision in the Trump case in Manhattan. This is now the longest performance of Hamlet in history as Judge Mershon continues to debate whether to be or not to be a sentencing judge in the Trump case. Let's listen in.
And Mershon originally gave himself into. So the case against Trump has been delayed. New York Judge Juan Mershon has decided to delay his ruling on whether to toss President-elect Trump's felony fraud case. And Mershon originally gave himself until today, 1 week after Election Day, to decide whether the 34-count indictment should stand, but ultimately elected to postpone that for a week until next Tuesday. So Mershon can decide how Trump's election will should or should not impact the criminal case. And I want to add this because we got a statement in by a spokesperson for the president-elect just in the last 30 minutes about that was actually a request from Trump's camp. We'll get into more of that, but I put all that off the top. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner here with my co-hosts, Emily Campagno and Kayleigh McEnany. Also joining us today, Kayleigh McGee-White, Journalism Fellow for the Steamboat Institute and Senior Fellow for the Independent Women's Forum. And Steve Hilton, Fox News contributor. Great to see you all. Trump's spokesperson, again, has reacted to the judge's postponement in a statement, and here it is. The American people have re-elected President Trump with an overwhelming mandate to make America great again. It is now abundantly clear that Americans want an immediate end to the weaponization of our justice system, including this case, which should never have been filed so we can, as President Trump said in his historic victory speech, unify our country and work together for the betterment of our nation. Fox's contributor and law professor at George Washington University, John Turley. Jonathan, we were talking last hour, and now a little bit more time has passed. Any fresh thoughts on November 19th and what we could see?
Well, the Trump administration, I think, can take some solace that they'll have a chance now to argue that the case should be dismissed. But I don't think expectations can be particularly high given this judge's track record. He has not shown any great balance at the trial. I was surprised in watching the trial to see some of his rulings, which frankly didn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought that he had left layers of reversible error, but none of that can be reviewed until this is finalized. Now, some have suggested that the judge could just freeze this for the upcoming term, to leave it in pendency. I just don't see that type of suspension as a likely or good option. You would have the president's critics saying that he's awaiting sentencing after a jury found him guilty of felonies. They need to have a status that where they can appeal this case, including the decisions made by this judge. Now, it is possible in a week that he could yield to calls for dismissal. You know, many have, including myself, felt that this case should never have been brought, that the judge made an unholy mess of it. In my view, it would be good to send the attractions back to their cages and call this circus over. But I wouldn't necessarily bet the farm on that one.
Wow. So, I mean, think about what he's saying there. Holding it over until Trump gets out of office. And that's the echo you will hear in the media. He's awaiting trial, awaiting sentencing for the entire 4 years that he's in office. And then we have this. This was just posted a couple days ago on the E. Jean Carroll case based on information provided to the Second Circuit Court on appeal of that case against Trump. The verdict should be overturned. The president's attorneys weren't allowed to cross-examine the so-called victim, and there was never a police report either.
She was unable to. Good morning, y'all. My name is Will Scharf. I'm one of President Trump's attorneys. Today, we presented oral argument before the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in one of two cases brought against President Trump by E. Jean Carroll. Now, it's really important to remember that E. Jean Carroll's story at its heart is an utterly implausible he said, she said story. There is no corroboration for anything she has ever claimed about President Trump. There are no corroborating witnesses, as President Trump alluded to. There is not confirmatory DNA. No police report was filed at the time of this alleged incident. She was unable to identify when this incident occurred until quite recently. No surveillance evidence or witnesses have ever been found or come forward confirming any aspect of E. Jean Carroll's story. In light of that, in light of the utter implausibility of the story that E. Jean Carroll was attempting to sell to the jury in this case, her attorneys introduced evidence that should have never seen the inside of a courtroom. Utterly insane efforts to introduce propensity witnesses, Jessica Leeds and Natasha Stoynoff, most notably, in an unfair and improper effort to buttress E. Jean Carroll's failed attempt to assault President Trump. Jessica Leeds' story is instructive here. This is a woman who claims that in the middle of a crowded airliner in 1979, President Trump assaulted her. Leeds has never been able to identify where this plane departed from, where it went to, the date of the flight in question, making our efforts to disprove her testimony extremely difficult. Under the federal rules of evidence, this story should have never been allowed to be presented to the jury in this case. The same is true of Natasha Stoynoff's story, which again lacks any indicia of reliability, any sort of credibility, any sort of confirmatory testimony from other witnesses, or anything else that would make you believe that this actually happened. So on the one hand, you have a judge who allowed in this improper propensity evidence that should not have been allowed in. In our view, that polluted the jury's deliberations in this case. That presented a story to the jury of a series of a pattern of conduct that the jury should not have been considering. And we think that absent that propensity evidence, no fair jury could have reached the verdict that was reached in this case. And as a result, we believe that this verdict needs to be overturned. But there's
boom, overturned, just like everything else. It is all collapsing. Statement from Donald Trump 9 hours ago from the communications director at the Trump campaign, Stephen Chung, on President Trump's total and definitive victory against Alvin Bragg. This is a total and definitive victory for President Trump and the American people who elected him in a landslide. The Manhattan DA has conceded that this witch hunt cannot continue. The lawless case is now stayed, and President Trump's legal team is moving to get it dismissed once and for all. Bye-bye. Another victory for President Trump. Charlie Kirk posting 12 hours ago, Judge Merchan adjourns the New York City case against Trump without delivering sentencing for hush money case. Even if Trump's convictions were to be upheld, the president-elect has a myriad of ways to appeal the case or get the charges against him dismissed. And here is CNN crying about it.
Paula, tell us what you...
We have breaking news coming into CNN right now. The Manhattan District Attorney has agreed to postpone Donald Trump's sentencing in his criminal hush money trial. The president-elect was found guilty of 34 felonies in his case.
Like so many things involving the president-elect, this is uncharted territory, with Trump being the first convicted felon elected to the nation's highest office. We're covering this from all angles, and we begin with CNN's Paula Reed. Paula, tell us what you've learned.
You hear how they frame it, the first convicted felon.
I've been waiting for this decision because the question is, what happens to President-elect Trump's sentencing that is scheduled for next week? And here, what we're learning is that the district attorney has made it clear they're going to reject and try to defend against any effort to dismiss this case, but they are open to delaying this sentencing for up to 4 years because they understand that it's going to take time to litigate this issue of the future of this case. So they do not agree to dismiss this case, but while that question is being litigated, they understand that the sentencing has to be paused. So President-elect Trump will not be sentenced next week. And the next step is the two parties will litigate this issue. And again, they understand that the sentencing, if it goes forward, may not happen for another 4 years.
Yeah, how ridiculous is that? You're going to hold it out for another 4 years? So, Jack Lombardi posting this. Friend of mine, make sure you follow him on X. Adjourned. Judge and DA weaponizing justice against President-elect Trump. The adjournment of President-elect Donald Trump's sentencing in New York isn't just a delay. It's further proof the legal system is being weaponized for political warfare. Judge Juan Merchan and DA Alvin Bragg have turned what should be impartial justice into a shameless attack on Trump designed to sway public opinion and interfere with his leadership. And it is all falling apart in real time. So there you have it. Trump's legal victories are stacking up faster than we can count them. Georgia, Manhattan, D.C., the whole house of cards is tumbling down. And just like these victories, you can celebrate with our new MAG Avengers collection at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Nothing says I told you so. It's like wearing it proudly. Now here's the bombshell question I want you to wrestle with in the comments. If these cases were so rock solid, according to the mainstream media, why are they all falling apart right after Trump's election victory? And more importantly, who should be investigated for orchestrating this coordinated legal assault on a sitting or soon-to-be sitting president? Should these prosecutors face their own day in court? I want to hear from you.